Hello, good evening. All right, good evening, Shay.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Anu. Good evening. Wear my glasses.
All right, so we have people join on the call. I'm going to pin the topic right here. So I'll hand over to you now.
Okay, give me 1 second. Hi, Jumoke. Welcome.
Hello, Shay. So good to be here.
Good to-
How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to you too. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
I just wanted to pull up quickly your profile. Um, I just read an interview to the crowd, to our audience. It's funny, like when you find the lives and everything. Last week was Women's Day. Today's Mother's Day. Oh, please let me know. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So we're like, oh, okay. I think everything is falling on relevant days. So we're just going to get into it so that we don't drag for too long. So we have Olajumoke Osunsanya. She is a trailblazing registered dietitian, nutritionist, and the founder of Khairo Diet Clinic, Nigeria's premier center for precision nutrition. With over 8 years of clinical expertise, an MPH in public health and nutrition, and from the University of Ibadan, and an international certification in as a diabetes educator. All right, so that's all. I want to even start with welcome again and congratulations on your clinic turning 7 years. I
Oh, thank you.
it was such a great experience to just go in and just get to try out the different things. And I'm even excited that the conversation that we're having today has to even do with metabolism,
Mhm.
hormonal stability, because when I went through the testings, and I know by the time I was leaving, I was like, oh wow, these are the areas I need to focus on.
Mhm.
So just getting into what we've been talking about within the community, we've been spotlighting dysregulation in the body. Last week we went in on, why some symptoms are interconnected, the symptoms we experience, because sometimes what we find in here, especially when it comes to PCOS, is that these things are treated separately as
Mhm.
opposed to being looked at holistically. So somebody's like, oh, okay, you want to lose weight, and you're not considering the fact that maybe this person is having trouble like digesting, or the person is experiencing stress-related symptoms that might be causing cortisol levels to be high, and then she's storing fat. So looking at that yesterday was just such a great segue to just bring awareness to that. And now we're like going deeper into the conversation. So just in your experience, when we talk about metabolism in health, what does that mean exactly? What are we really referring to?
Okay. So, first of all, for the sake of those that don't exactly understand what metabolism means, metabolism means all the chemical reactions that happen from the time that you put the food in your mouth to the time that you use it as energy, right? So, just to keep it very simple. So, everybody um, undergo metabolism from time to time, because we all eat, right? So from the time you put food in your mouth to the time you use it as energy, metabolism is happening. When
Mm-hmm.
it comes to women's health, it's we're talking if we're going to adapt that to women's health, we're talking about uh, how the whole thing affects reproductive health, our reproductive health as women, So this is about your diet quality. How is your diet quality and your lifestyle affecting your reproductive health?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, as women, overnutrition or undernutrition can affect your reproductive health. It's as simple as that. If you are well nourished, if you have good metabolic health, it
Mm-hmm.
can actually reduce your risk of some conditions that you're genetically predisposed to. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if you're already genetically predisposed to fibroids, I'm just saying that for instance.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, lots of black women are predisposed to fibroids.
Right.
You know, I'm always saying that African women, especially, are supposed to be eating for their reproductive health from the adolescent stage. right? Because but we don't do that. We don't eat. We don't even eat for our reproductive health from the time where we're adolescents. When we're adolescents, we're always thinking we can eat anything, but that is actually the time to shape your body for uh for your reproductive health. You know, as a woman, you're supposed to shape your body, right? So for instance, if you're genetically predisposed to fibroids, you know what you feed your body, how you protect your metabolic health, determines if you quickly show symptoms of fibroids
Fibroids.
or not, right? So many years ago, by many years ago, I mean probably 20 years ago or 30 years ago, maybe women only develop fibroids in their 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now you have people in their 20s developing fibroids. I developed my own set of fibroids when I was 23. And I
Wow.
was wondering what in the world is going on? Like, it was my first time encountering that. I had my first myomectomy when I was 23. Yeah. So before I even smell marriage, I already went in for surgery,
For sure.
you know. And it was later, and then I just finished my course. I've not even started practicing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've never started practicing at all. So it was after that myomectomy that I started researching, because it was going to regrow again, really. Because I remember going for a particular job interview, and it was expected to do all of those scans and tests again. And I realized that the thing has regrown. And I told myself that no, that cannot happen. I cannot go back into removing fibroids again, you know. So I started researching about the link between fibroids and health, you know, and I realized that okay, I was actually feeding it, you know, and that was a turnaround for me. So most women don't know how to eat for their reproductive health,
Yeah.
right? So you have to optimize your metabolic health. By metabolic health, I mean your all your organs are working in sync. I
Mm-hmm.
love your series, Out of Sync.
That's the thing. Yes, that's very
I love that series, right? So it means that all your organs are working in sync. Your
mm,
blood sugar is normal. Your blood cholesterol is normal. Your blood pressure is okay. Everything is just working in harmony. Your body is in a state of balance.
mm,
You know, that way you're literally helping your body carry out whatever
the
function,
basic. Uh,
including the reproductive functions as well. Yeah.
yeah, I can see a question from Zainab. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Maybe towards the end. We just have a couple of questions to go through, and then we'll get to your questions. Thanks. And then for anybody else on live, please drop down. You can drop your question in the question box beside the comments, or you can just type it, and then I can go through and we'll get to it. So there was something you said about how, for women, we actually should be aware that there's a way to eat for our bodies. And quite frankly, it's not that you're in your 30s, or like, even let me even just think about dealing with PCOS. Like, I didn't know, for example, certain fruits weren't good for me. I didn't know the eating meat, for example, like, red meat was also not good for me. There are a lot of things I was taking, but I just noticed that okay, maybe my body is not really digesting as fast, or then I'm just feeling a lot sluggish and everything like that. So just that part of highlighting that yes, there's a lot of awareness that even needs to go into nutrition, in the sense that what are we meant to be feeding ourselves, because that's a lot of confusion, but we'll get to that. What I wanted to even just ask more about was how, and you touched on it, how metabolic health influences like hormone balance, especially in conditions like PCOS.
All right. So, women with PCOS are genetically predisposed to insulin resistance.
Yeah.
You know, it's either you're fat or you're not fat.
Mhm.
Insulin resistance happen in about 70% cases of women with PCOS.
Mhm.
You understand? So, having that balance that I talked about earlier, um, can determine if the symptoms of PCOS will be so obvious or if it's going to be suppressed. You
Mhm.
understand me? So, like I said, women with PCOS are at risk of insulin resistance. The more insulin in the bloodstream, the more the androgen levels, the higher the symptoms of PCOS. My
Mhm.
first patients the first patient I ever attended to with PCOS was actually an adolescent, you
Oh,
know. And I remember I was volunteering that time in an IVF center,
okay.
you know. And I was first of all surprised that someone that is just like 18, 19 years old could be already having lots of acne, already battling with high blood sugar and all of that. She was my first case ever. This was many years ago.
Was she aware of
Yeah,
POS?
yeah, yeah. She was actually referred to me,
Oh, wow.
for PCOS management. This was years ago, more than 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
more than, I think, close to 10 years ago. I was volunteering because
Okay.
I had not even done my clinical practice at that time. I was
Mm-hmm.
just volunteering, and they said, okay, let's try this out. Let's try diet out. And we worked on our diet quality, and after working on our diet quality, by introducing low glycemic index food, pairing foods appropriately, creating a personalized diet plan for her, you know, within within 3 to 6 months, she got her period back without even supplements that time. Because that time I don't even discuss supplements with clients at all at that time. But she was my first client ever with PCOS. First of all, I was taken aback, like, you're young, so why are you having to deal with this? And then we were able to walk through it together. And thank God she actually showed up early, because that showing up early, I'm very sure, would really, really protect her, going
Yeah.
forward. She's not empowered.
Mm-hmm.
She was empowered at an early age on how to master her body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So being able to reach that metabolic balance is very important. By metabolic balance, for patients with PCOS or for women with PCOS, that means that you are consistently having normal blood sugar. You're consistently having normal blood sugar. That's a state of metabolic balance. You're
Mm-hmm.
constantly having normal blood sugar. You're constantly having normal blood pressure. You're checking your blood cholesterol, and it's always within range.
Yeah.
That's a phase of metabolic balance. The more you attain that phase of metabolic balance, the better for your reproductive health. The less symptoms that you're going to see of PCOS. And that is why you see some women that have PCOS and you'll not even notice. They are
Mm.
giving birth normally. They're not noticing any symptoms. They're having their condition under control. That is because even though all women with PCOS are predisposed to insulin resistance, some women have been able to control their metabolic health than others. So your metabolic health is literally directly proportional to your PCOS symptoms. You understand? So the more you have your metabolic health under control, the more suppressed the symptoms
Them
going to
are.
be.
So for the sake of like some people that might not be aware of like insulin, because obviously we've been in this space, so we know the word.
So
So if we can just break down insulin, what insulin is. I know you also spoke about blood sugar. You had briefly mentioned about when you were managing the young lady going to the low GI foods. So if we can just do like a quick summary on what these are so that we can just level set so everyone understands.
Okay. So that's where if you don't know about insulin resistance, it simply means that your body is producing insulin, but your cells are not responding well to the insulin that you're producing. So, insulin, for instance, I just want to quickly explain what insulin is.
Yeah.
Insulin is that hormone that helps you convert blood sugar to energy. So when you eat your carbs get converted to glucose. So when this glucose is in the bloodstream, insulin is released, and that insulin helps to mop out the glucose from the bloodstream and take them to the cells that need them, where they're going to be used as source of energy. Now, the problem with women with PCOS is that they are insulin resistance. That means that they are producing insulin, but this insulin is able to only that the insulin they are producing is only able to move the sugar to the cell where it's needed, but the cells are unable to use it
Mm-hmm.
as energy, right? So because of that, the blood sugar just remain in the bloodstream, and also the insulin also remain in the bloodstream. There's what we call hyperinsulinemia. right? That means there's lots of insulin in the bloodstream, and there's also lots of sugar in the bloodstream, right? So they are producing insulin, unlike people with type 1 diabetes. People with type 1 diabetes, they are not even producing insulin at all. So they will
Okay.
always need an external insulin so that they can process blood sugar. They can be able to convert blood sugar to energy. But women with PCOS, they have insulin resistance, something very close to what we have in type 2 diabetes. In people with type 2 diabetes, they are also insulin resistant. It means that they are producing insulin, but they are not able to use it as a source of energy. Now, where people get it wrong is to think that, okay, I'll just quickly lose weight and then I'll all of a sudden become
Fine.
I'll all of a sudden become fine. But that's not always the solution. Even if you lose weight rapidly, and you are not taking care of your diet quality. By diet quality, I mean proper pairing, not skipping meals. So, for instance, for instance, intermittent fasting can help people lose weight.
Lose weight. Yes, yeah.
Right? But doing intermittent fasting does not mean that your blood sugar will be controlled, especially if you're not doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is a way you can do intermittent fasting in which there's a way you can do it in a way that your blood sugar will be stable all through the day. And
Mm-hmm.
there's another way you can do it is such a way that your blood sugar will just be doing
Spiking.
spiking, going up and down, going up and down, going up and down. So the goal for women with PCOS is to make sure that your blood sugar is stable all through the day, and it's not just doing zigzag. It's not giving a zigzag pattern. Do you understand me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the goal. The goal is to have a stable blood sugar all through the day.
Okay, so and I like that we're talking about blood sugar, basically regulation and ensuring because another thing that is quite common that a number of women report is energy crash. Because like you said, we're eating in a sense, we're eating to fuel our body to be able to go about our daily activities. And you can see you wake up like sometimes you probably even rested, you're going about your day, and then all of a sudden you just lose energy. And then the next thing you're thinking, oh, I need a quick snack or something that will pick you up. But then you find out maybe after an hour, and there are certain foods that have that, like you said, the spike. After an hour, you're already feeling the low. So how much of that is connected to blood sugar regulation? And what can women do to manage that better?
Okay, so when it comes to blood sugar crashes or tiredness, maybe tiredness, feeling sluggish shortly after eating, for women with PCOS, you want to target balanced plates. Two things here: balanced plates and carb counting.
Okay.
I really don't know um, if a woman with PCOS will be able to effectively manage her blood sugar without at least basic understanding of carbs and how it affects their blood sugar.
Mm,
Right. So when it comes to blood sugar management, you are thinking in terms of what are the carbs that are refined, that are too refined, that can quickly turn to blood sugar. So
mm,
you are thinking in terms of what are the carbs that can quickly turn to blood sugar, and what are the carbs that takes a little bit time before turning to blood sugar,
mm,
right? So first of all, you target carbs that take a little bit time before turning to blood sugar. You understand? It is
mm.
weird because people actually think that sweet potato will easily spike your blood sugar because it is
Yeah,
called
just
sweet
the sweet
potatoes.
potato. Yeah.
Because it is called sweet potatoes, but that's not true, right?
Okay.
It is still about even people literally run away from white rice. You hear some people say, "Oh, I've not eaten white rice in 3 months," but you're missing it. You're missing the white rice. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about when to eat it, right? So it is about how you pair it. So when it comes to uh, um, uh, regulating or avoiding tiredness,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so for instance, if you load your body with a lot of carbs in the morning, so two things can happen. Yeah, most of the time when we eat carbs, it gets converted to sugar within 2 hours anyways. So within 2 hours you're going to feel it, you're going to see the effect of what you have done 2 hours ago, literally, right? So the reason why you may feel tired after a meal, shortly after a meal, or feel sluggish, it might be that you are choosing foods that can quickly spike your blood sugar, or you actually go for complex carbs, but you did not pair it with other food groups like a lot of vegetables and lean protein. You understand? So if you are going for, okay, so for instance, if you as a woman, I was talking to somebody, one of my clients recently doing consultation,
Yeah.
and she's a female, she's not yet married, and she's talking about all the symptoms that she's having. And then while we're taking her diet history, I realized that she likes golden morn a lot. And I told her, sis, you'll have to let go of late golden morn. He said, no, you don't mean it. I've ordered another pack. I said, I said, you have to let go of golden morn. You have to go for cereals that have dietary fiber, a lot of dietary fiber, that will slow down the release of sugar in the bloodstream. You have to be smart about your carbs. She felt bad, but of course, my work as a dietitian is to now suggest alternatives that are still enjoyable. We make alternatives enjoyable. So that's what we do, making alternatives enjoyable. So, for instance, if you're used to taking a lot of golden morn, So, what another thing? I know we're talking more about PCOS, but I just want to quickly deviate a little bit.
No, that's right.
So, if you are taking, if you're a fan of golden morn every morning, or a fan of white bread every morning, apart from the there'll be a sharp spike in your blood sugar. Then after some time, there'll be a crash.
Yeah.
Because the blood sugar, the carbs get converted so quickly to glucose, and the insulin is released so quickly. They quickly mop it up, and there's a crash in your blood sugar. That affects women with PCOS. But women with fibroids don't also know that golden morn and white bread is not also their friends.
Yeah.
Because anything sugary foods, foods that are high in white sugar, it also feed fibroids. Do you understand? So technically, it's like for women, refined sugar is not just your friend.
Yeah.
Understand? So you just have to be more smart about choosing foods that are higher in dietary fiber. Check for the dietary fiber of any cereal that you're taking, then pair it alongside even much more fiber foods. I know that protein makes a lot of round on social media. Take adequate protein. Yes, you should take adequate protein. You should take healthy fat, but also choose foods that are high in dietary fiber. Be more intentional about how much dietary fiber you're getting per meal.
Thank you. I mean, where you said the golden one night, I was like, yeah, 'cause I'm not even, to be honest, I like cereal, but I give up certain cereals. Like before, I would like Cocoa Puffs. In fact, I think Sugar Puffs, they've changed the name to Honey Puffs now, but I'm like, all of this is scam. So I got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I guess I'm not going to eat cereals, or either read the back, just be, okay, what's in it really, that kind of thing. So even with golden morn, maybe once in a while I eat it, but I do know that it always affects me. So I think at some point I just said, is it really worth the energy crash at the end? So, and that's the thing, navigating this journey, you go online, there's a lot of conflicting information. People will say, oh, this is what you should focus on, or some other people will say cut out dairy. I think that's also another that people say completely switch from dairy because you don't know what you put in cow milk, hormones, and everything like that. While other people are like, dairy is fine. Maybe we're just making it up. So I guess from your professional experience, what can you say to advise, like general advice or principles women can follow when trying to decide on the right kind of nutrition for their hormonal?
I would say that it's best to have a direct consultation with the
Okay.
dietitian to really know how dairy affects you. So, for instance, for women with PCOS, they're not just at risk of type 2 diabetes, they're also at risk of high abnormal lipid profile, so high blood cholesterol and all of that. So if you are having full fat dairy is good for people with PCOS, because the problem now is that they're not even producing enough. I think they're not getting enough estrogen, right? So
Okay.
they're having more of the male pattern hormone than the estrogen they're supposed to be producing. So full fat milk is good, but the
Mm,
problem is how good is your blood cholesterol? Because
mm,
if your blood cholesterol is not good, or if you don't have other aspects of your diet well taken care of, you
yeah.
just realize that your blood cholesterol is also going up, and that is also going to affect your level of inflammation.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
understand?
You know my question.
You understand? So it is very, very important that so for me, it's okay to take full fat milk. You can
Mm-hmm.
also do skimmed milk or semi-skimmed milk, and that's totally fine. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? But we're talking about your total health, which
Mm,
is unique to you,
mm-hmm.
right? Your total health is unique to you. How well is your blood cholesterol under control,
Mm.
right? If your blood cholesterol is well under control, then the full fat dairy is not something to worry about.
Great.
Then we target other food components that
Mm-hmm.
can help to keep your blood cholesterol in check. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So yeah, that's it.
And then for with regard to estrogen, I mean, there should be other things that we should be able to get estrogen from, right?
Yeah,
So yeah.
there's some foods that, yeah, I that's what I also believe, because it's not only full fat dairy that can give you that healthy fat.
Mm-hmm.
Full fat
Mm-hmm.
dairy even contain more of saturated fats. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? But it's not a problem if your saturated fat intake. We all have allowance for saturated fat. I
Mm-hmm.
think 10% of our calories should come from saturated fats, or
Yeah.
or less than 10%. So if you're only getting it from the full fat dairy, that's totally fine. You understand me, right? So your healthy fats like avocados and nuts and seeds, they also help, with hormonal balance,
Mm-hmm.
with the reducing of male pattern hormone and increasing the female hormone as you should have it. You understand me? So it's not just in full fat area that we can get the fats that we need. We can get the fats that we need from better sources. Like I said, all of these things are usually personalized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, when you look at a client's profile, you'll be like, okay, let's go this route.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how it works. For that kind of person, just it's always unique to. It varies from a person to another.
Yeah, because I remember I was going to your clinic and there was I can't remember the name of the machine, so you can just inform us of that machine where I stood on it, and based on obviously you look at BMI and you're like, oh my God, based on this, I'm overweight and everything like that. And by the time the result came out, and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that bad. I have a lot of protein. And then I heard something called muscular overweight. I was like, oh,
Okay.
what is that? Do you understand? So that
Yeah.
was actually quite insightful. And I wondered if you can just maybe talk a bit about why doing that sort of testing is very relevant for women. So you
Yeah.
know what they're working at.
Okay, so having doing your body composition analysis, it's called body composition analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So doing your body composition analysis will help to know uh, maybe you have the good type of fats or the bad type of fats. That's just it. So most of the time, as women, we obsess about our weight a lot, and rightly so, because the society already paints a picture of perfection for
Yeah.
us. You understand? So you're standing on the weight, you're seeing that lot of weight, you're asking yourself, is it all fats? Or do I have some muscles?
Mm.
You know, or is it my bones that are weighing?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Some will say, it's my bones are actually weighing on the scale. So you want to be sure, right? You can only guess. You can only say, oh, I think it's my bone. I think I have heavy bones, or I
Mm.
think I have lots of muscles. So body composition analysis, like the one that you did, that they will give you an in-depth analysis of your body fat, your muscle mass, your bone mass. It will just give you a complete breakdown, and not just the total body fat, but also let you know what type of body fat you have.
Yeah.
So are you having more of the visceral fat? So the visceral fat are the fats that wraps around your organs. You cannot see that on the weighing scale. You understand me? So the one that wraps around the organs are the one that predispose to chronic conditions. Of course, excess subcutaneous fats can also, after a long time, result in inflammation and all of that too. But the one that you should be much more concerned about is the visceral fats, and the body comp analysis helps to know if you are in the normal range of visceral fat or slightly high or the dangerous range of visceral fat. So that is why it is very, very important to check your body composition analysis to know. Okay, so you can, so for instance, for some people that do the test, they realize that they actually have enough muscles, right? They have enough muscles, their muscle mass is within range, but they are still overweight. So that's what we call muscular overweight. So it means that you have lots of muscles that you can put it to work. You can put your muscles to work. You can train your muscles in such a way that that's what we call strength training. You're doing your strength training exercises. You're such that your muscles even burn lots of energy even while at rest. You understand? So with that, over time you start losing the fat. So also doing that kind of test also help you to target your fat loss.
Yeah.
To make sure that while you're losing weight, you're not losing muscles, you're actually just losing fats. Because during intense or rapid weight loss, you can lose your muscle mass as well. But if you are intentional about your weight loss, you are making sure that you're only losing fats, the one that you don't need. You're not losing the muscles, right? So you are tracking your muscles. You're doing everything right to make sure that you're protecting your muscle mass while losing fat mass. Also, that's the point where, of course, doing the metabolic testing, that's the resting metabolic rate testing comes in. Also, you're able to know what is the amount of calories that I actually need. I don't want to go too low and lose muscles. I don't want to go too high and start gaining weight. What is the exact calorie requirement? So for instance, when it comes to using formula to calculate your metabolic your calories, your energy requirements, there could be a little bit overestimation or a little bit underestimation. Sometimes we get it right with the formula, and sometimes the formula may exaggerate your calorie intake a little bit, or underestimate it. So resting metabolic analysis just help you to know, okay, this is my resting metabolic rate. Okay, your dietitian will use that figure to estimate your physical activity and how much you need to probably maintain weight or lose weight. So yeah.
So if we're going to give an example of that, so it makes it easier for people to understand. So let's say if you can just give an example of, okay, this is the resting, and then maybe this is what you should consume, like that walkthrough. So it's just easier for people to get that, okay, I shouldn't go below this, and then if I'm trying to lose weight, I should be within range. If you can just expand on that a bit.
Okay, so when you're trying to lose weight, you should not go below your resting metabolic rate. So what is the resting metabolic rate? Your resting metabolic rate is the energy that you need from food to perform basic life function. Basic life function like breathing, like digestion, so what you need to literally be alive. That's your resting metabolic rate. So
Yeah.
while you are trying to lose weight, you must not go below that resting metabolic rate. Because if you eat, so some people I'm laughing because there was a particular client that I attended to, I think like 3 years ago now, and she came and she said that she once went on meal replacement shakes. All these meal replacement shakes
Yeah.
that helps you lose. You will not eat any other thing. You just be drinking the meal replacement shakes. They are literally very low in calories. They should be used under medical supervision.
Yeah.
You understand? But people abuse it a lot. People abuse it a lot. They just quickly go on it. So the problem with that is that you can also affect your thyroid gland when you are going below your resting metabolic rates.
Okay.
So your thyroid gland is the thermostat for your metabolism.
Oh, I see.
So when you consistently go below your resting metabolic rate, that's when you constantly go below the energy that is required just to keep you alive. Your thyroid become underactive. and you may develop what we call hypothyroidism,
Mm-hmm.
right? In that kind of case, these people will lose weight for a particular time. They'll even be happy. They'll be slender. They'll be happy, and all of a sudden, the weight will just come back. You know,
The vengeance.
the weight will just come back, and even if they breathe like this, they will have weight. You understand? And then I was watching a YouTube experience of somebody shared her experience on YouTube, in which she first lost weight, lot of weight, and she started adding the weight back, and then she thought that she would just go back to what she normally do, and that she will start reducing. She said she started eating once a day, and then she started eating once in 2 days. She started eating once in 3 days, and the weight was not coming off.
Oh, wow.
When I was watching the YouTube thing, I know I wasn't supposed to be laughing, but I was laughing, because she became confused.
Yeah.
I was laughing because I understand that frustration when you think that what worked before will now work again.
Again, yeah.
But in the real sense, you have caused yourself, you have affected your thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland has become underactive, and now that will now slow your metabolism so much that you'll not be able to keep up. I think what she later did was gastric sleeve. You understand? In that kind of case, there's nothing you can do because your metabolic rate has already been affected. You understand? So in your trying to lose weight, in trying to get that summer body, you are not supposed to go below your resting metabolic rate. But how will you even know your resting metabolic rate when you're depending on probably formula, or maybe you don't have a way to really estimate what is specific to you, which is the gap that we have successfully breached at Khairo Clinic. So help you estimate the exact resting metabolic rate so that you don't go below it. You stay a little bit above it and just maintain that level.
Yeah, that was actually anyway, I'll let you guys experience it when you go to Cairo, when to because I was just like, what is it? You mean I have to? It was an interesting experience, but by the time we're done going through it, and she was like, and the result came out, and I'm like, oh, so this is like the minimum I shouldn't go below, and I'm like, wow, and I've never thought like what you said, because I've also done yo-yo. Oh, let me intermittent fast today. At one point, I was like, okay, warrior fast. You eat,
Or OMAD. Some people even go for OMAD once a day.
Even I can tell, like at some point, I was like, okay, so now I need to start correcting and getting back into balance, because, like you said, at the end of the day, it's really about achieving balance on the inside. Once your body, because I guess if you think about it, if your body is like, okay, this is how much I need to function in a day, and at so time I will get breakfast, at so time I'll get lunch, at so time dinner, and then, like you said, there's activities that we're doing. Because I also heard as we age as women, we kind of naturally lose muscles, so it's very important
From
to
30 years, you start losing muscles,
wow.
and you're supposed to start being conscious. You're supposed to be intentional about protecting your muscles and your bone mass.
Wow.
Muscles and bone mass. People overlook bone mass a lot. I also got to see it in real time from my mom's experience. You, you understand? Maybe 10 years ago, people they don't really take their calcium intake seriously.
Okay.
They don't think that taking milk is something, and you're not taking milk and you're not supplementing. And after many years, your bones become weak. You understand? And you're not getting enough muscles also. So people need to start being intentional about your muscle mass, start being intentional about your bone mass, especially from 30. And to be fair, I cannot even lie. To be fair, nutrition throughout a woman's life cycle is
Awesome.
is so important. You don't even have an idea. We don't even have an idea. Very important. Very important. I was reading a research. I don't want to waste our time because our time is well spent.
Oh wow. Okay,
I was reading a particular research, and it has been proven that women with gestational diabetes that have high elevated blood sugar during pregnancy can give birth to a child that can be predisposed to PCOS later.
Oh wow.
So when I was reading that research, I was like, what's going on, you know? So, and well, I should not be surprised because
Oh,
during pregnancy. So,
sorry, lost you a bit.
oh, so sorry, a call came in. A call came
Okay.
in. I had to call it. So it should not be surprising because a woman with gestational diabetes have insulin resistance during pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that could actually affect the growing child. You
Wow.
understand? A lot of research studies in the field of epigenetics have also shown that your quality of diet during pregnancy may or may not predispose your child to chronic conditions later in life. So nutrition almost throughout your life cycle is it cannot be underestimated.
I'm sorry, but we did food and nutrition in secondary school. What were they teaching us?
That was
All I
because
remember is that I cooked practical and made money from my practicals. That's it.
that's because research the research we have in nutrition now is not the same as the research we have 20 years ago,
Not true.
or even the how developed dietetic practice is in Nigeria is not the same as 10 or 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So research is ongoing and we're just unveiling so many things. Too many things are linked to our diets than we really realize.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. And there's something you said, and if we can touch on it a bit more around inflammation in the body. Yes, and just the connection with nutrition and how that, shows up.
Yeah. So there are some foods that have been shown to cause inflammation in our body over time.
Okay.
Of course, foods that are very high in saturated fats and
Mm-hmm.
foods that are very high in sugar. Those are the things that cause inflammation in our body over time. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? And that can actually predispose us to chronic conditions. Also, if you are very much overweight or probably very much obese, you know, there is there's an amount of fats that your body can naturally take. So
Okay.
if you exceed the amount of subcutaneous fat, for instance, you know, those of research studies have actually shown that after the excess subcutaneous fats that you have, your body will start transferring some of these fats to your organs, to your
Mm.
liver, to your heart,
Okay.
and that is what is called ectopic fats,
Mm.
you know. And with that, there'll be much more of visceral fat, and there'll be much more of inflammation as well. So what are you supposed to do to reduce inflammation? You're making sure that you're not taking so much sugary foods. Keep your refined sugar very low, keep your saturated fat intake very low, keep your weight within as much as possible close to normal range of BMI. I know that a lot of people say, oh, BMI is not accurate. Yes, it is not accurate, but it always points you to look at something deeper. You
Mm.
understand? So
It's
it's
a
a
first
starting
step.
point. It's a starting point. So you look at it to be like, okay, my BMI is not very okay. What could be wrong? So you actually, for instance, if your BMI is really 30 or 31 or 32, you can go for the body composition analysis. Okay, what exactly is going on?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is reading? Then you check it. If your visceral fat is a bit high, if your total subcutaneous fat is higher than normal, that is when you now you have to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, and I mean, this is like the last question from me before I check what the audience has to say.
It's,
Um, so another thing now, maybe if you can summarize it, how can women, so if a woman wants to start, okay, I've heard a lot about metabolism, nutrition, how I need to eat for my reproductive health. What are one or two habits, like small habits that they can start implementing?
I will give you three general habits,
Okay.
I think I have three personalized habits, three things that I think you should also try out.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, we all know we need to exercise,
Yeah.
but not all of us are exercising, right? So generally, exercise. Generally, take fruits. We all know we're supposed to take 1 to 2 fruits every day, but not all of us are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, take 1 to 2 fruits every day. The third general tip that will always work for you at any time is your vegetable intake.
Mm-hmm.
Take 2 cups of vegetables. So those are three general tips I have to give to any woman try to live healthy with or without PCOS.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise. I know that your work schedule is tight, but make out time to exercise. Even if it is walking around in between work, just do it. If
Mm-hmm.
you count your steps, do a minimum of 5,000 steps, just do that. Then
Mm-hmm.
take your fruits, take your vegetables. Now, specifically, that's general. I'll talk about generally. Specifically, troubleshoot a bit further.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Troubleshoot a bit further by consulting a dietitian on time, especially if you have PCOS, or if you have endometriosis, or if you have fibroids, or any other conditions or autoimmune conditions. Women are at risk of autoimmune condition also. So if you have any of these conditions, quickly consult a dietitian. Don't just depend on drugs and just say my drugs are going to take care of it, and then you now later realize that you still need diet. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So don't just overly depend on drugs. Consult a dietitian, quickly get a personalized diet plan. Secondly, is to the second specific tip that I would do is take diagnostics seriously. Track your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You- And when I'm talking about track your numbers, I'm not just talking about your blood pressure or your blood sugar. Those ones are very good. But like we just talked about, your body composition. You want to improve your body composition beyond the figure eight that everybody's raving mad about. It's all about your
Are you
body
healthy on
composition.
the inside?
Yeah, it's all about what is on the inside. You
Mm.
understand? So go a little bit further, and yeah, and thirdly, if you have any form of condition like PCOS, go for checkup regularly. Don't just say I have it under control, and that's another specific thing. Go for checkup. Check with your endocrinologist, maybe once in 6 months. Check with your cardiologist once in gynecologist. Check with your dietitian. I would say that except all your figures are within range, you should also check with your dietitian once in 6 months, or
Mm.
minimum of once a year. That is if you have everything under control. So
Mm.
all of these checkups also help a lot. It
Mm-hmm.
strengthens you, it gives you the support that you need. And yeah, that's it.
I love it. Medcare. As you were talking, I was like, Medcare is self-care. I, because I think the problem sometimes is that feeling of, oh, the fear that can be associated with it, where people are like, oh, I've got this diagnosis. What do I do? And then you kind of have to go over the first knowledge paralysis, because when you go online, you're seeing all sorts of information. But
Yeah.
what you're saying, when you decide that, okay, you know what, if once a month, or I mean once in 6 months, I'm checking with my, how often with a dietitian? Maybe every 3 months, right?
Every 6 months, if your blood sugar
Okay.
is well controlled. But if you're
So,
starting out, at least start with the
good.
sorry. So if
Okay.
you're starting out, at least start with 1 month with your dietitian, or
Okay.
2 months, depending on what you need. Then after your discharge, or you cannot come back just once in 6 months, once
Mm-hmm.
a year, depending on how well controlled your figures are. So
Mm-hmm.
track your figures, you understand, and check in with your health professionals.
Awesome. Then let me quickly go up. I think I saw, even though I think you may have answered it.
Okay.
There was a question around what's the difference between metabolism and nutrition. I guess you can just differentiate.
Metabolism and nutrition.
Yeah, that was the question.
Okay, right. So nutrition simply means how you nourish your body. Eating to nourish your body. That's nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
right? Metabolism means all the chemical reactions that happen from the time when you put the food in your mouth to the time that it is used as energy. So
Mm-hmm.
metabolism is broader. It's from the time that you start chewing your food to the time that probably you go to toilet, or and then use it as energy, physical activity, and all of that. So yeah, so nutrition simply means nourishment. How do you nourish your body? What is the nutrients in your food that is going to nourish your body? Metabolism is all the chemical reactions that are in play
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that this food get converted to the energy that energy and nutrients that your body needs.
Mm. I love it. So I like to also think about the body. Sometimes I like to work in analogies. Like if I think of a car and I think of, oh, food that I put into my car, I mean, the food that I put in is like the fuel, and then obviously the engine is in a way your metabolism, in a sense of how everything is processed and it gets you going. So if
Yeah.
you put a diesel in a petrol or a fuel engine, it will definitely not be well. So it's like sometimes what are we feeding into our body, and how can we then, and how is it even affecting how we manage? And obviously the goal is to ensure that we're putting the right kind of things that will give us the right kind of energy and keep our bodies going as far as smoothly as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was going to end with an analogy, yeah, it's with that analogy.
Yeah.
Um, if there are any further questions, please feel free to like send us a DM about it. We can also ask, I like calling it doctor. I know it's not doctor yet, but I doctor, okay, I'll call it doctor. Okay.
Food doctor.
Yeah, reach out to Khairo if you want to go really further. It's really important. Like I was saying, medcare is self-care. It's really important that you get ahead and know for a fact, what you are doing, because I mean there are a lot of things that are available online, and yes, some of them are helpful, but then there's only so far it can go. If I didn't meet with her, I wouldn't have realized that some of the habits I've been, even though at some point in my journey it was helpful, at the stage I am right now, it's like, okay, it's not helpful. So I was like, I don't need to have breakfast, but now I'm being a bit more intentional about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is what I'm going to eat at what time. I have
Yeah.
to come up with a schedule. I said, okay, and then let's check again. I know, okay, I need to check again and see,
Mm-hmm.
has my number, what's my composition right now. So it's very, I think the bottom line is as long as you have your eyes on your numbers, then nothing catches you out of like unawares, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
now checking in. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Happy
Thank you for having me.
birthday, but just spending the evening with us and everyone that joined. We're still going to keep talking about it. We're shedding light. We're having a master class on the 25th. So
Awesome.
that one we can go as maybe as detailed as possible. If you have questions, you can drop, any tips and tricks here and there. And then
Yeah.
of course, all this is all for educational purpose. It doesn't replace the need for you to see a medical professional or a professional or experts to just ensure that you're in tune with the right steps. And like Jumoke had said earlier, it's when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to health, it's a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
What for one person might not work for you. What supplement that says, oh, this won't work for me, it might not work for you. It's always good to work with a professional.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have one final thing to say to our audience before we call it a night.
Oh, well, I'm just gonna say that being in sync with your body is very possible. Having having metabolic balance is possible. You just have to put in the work. You
Mm-hmm.
have to put, and if talking about putting the work, you have to know what to even do, right? So it still boils down to seeking help if you need to know what to do, and you can also, while you're trying to know what to do, just follow the general health advice. I've mentioned that earlier, but it is possible to be in sync with your body. It is possible to have good metabolic health. Yeah, and I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening.
You too. Thank you for having